Hi everyone! So today we're going to be adding mixed numbers. The way we add mixed numbers is to add our fraction part of the mixed number first, then add the two whole numbers, rewrite if needed, and as always, simplify. We are working with fractions after all. So our first example is 1 5/8 plus 3 1/8. What's nice about these two is that we have common denominators. So I'm just going to go ahead and add 5/8 plus 1/8 is 6/8. 1 plus 3 is 4. Again, we do need to simplify our fraction part, that's 6/8. I know I can divide both my numerator and denominator by 2. Therefore, I'll be left with 3/4, and our answer is going to be 4 3/4 as a simplified mixed number. Okay, let's go ahead and look at example 2 now. We have 5 2/3 plus 3 5/6. So the first thing we have to notice about these two is that we actually don't have a common denominator. So we're going to need to find a common denominator and then make them equivalent fractions. So the common denominator between 3 and 6 is going to be 6. So I'm going to make both of those fraction parts 6. I'm going to keep my whole numbers there intact. To move from 3 to 6, I did have to multiply by 2, so I'm going to have to multiply my numerator by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So we have 5 4/6. The 6 was the same over here, so I'm just going to keep it 3 5/6. Now that we do have our common denominators, I'm going to go ahead and add. 4/6 plus 5/6 is going to be equal to 9/6. And then 5 plus 3 is going to be equal to 8. This is where that step 3 comes in. Step 3 was rewrite if needed. Now we are going to need to rewrite this. 9/6, we remember from converting fractions to mixed numbers, is going to be 1 3/6. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that one and we're going to add it to our other whole number of 8. So we now end up with 9 3/6. Again, our fourth step is to always simplify, so I'm going to have to go ahead and divide my numerator and denominator of my fraction by 3, and I'm going to end up with 9 1/2. Whew, that was a lot of work for that. The next one's going to be very similar. So let's look at that next example. Example 3. On example 3, we have 10 5/6 plus 7 3/8. Again, our first step is to make our denominators like. So our common denominator between 6 and 8 is going to be 24. So what I have to do is multiply my 6 and my 5 by 4. So I'm going to end up with 10 20 24ths. And I'm going to have to multiply my 8 and my 3 by 3. So I'll end up with 9 24ths. Now that I have my common denominator, I can just go ahead and add my fraction parts first. 20 plus 9 is going to be 29 over 24. 10 plus 7 is going to be 17. I do need to look at that step 3 again and make sure that I do rewrite that 29 over 24. Again, we remember when we're converting from fractions to mixed numbers, we have to divide. So 24 will go into 29 one time with the remainder of 5 over 24. But we can't forget that that 17 was there, so we're going to go ahead and add those two together, and our final answer is going to be 18 5/24. So that's it for adding mixed numbers. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to subtracting mixed numbers. So to subtract mixed numbers, we have 4 steps. We're going to first subtract the fraction part of the mixed number. Then we're going to subtract the whole numbers. We're going to regroup if needed. And fourth, simplify as always. So let's look at our first example. So we're going to start off nice and easy. First thing we have to do is look at our two fractions. We do have common denominators here. So I am going to rewrite this just so I see this vertically. For some reason, I like to subtract vertically with mixed numbers. If you don't like to, don't do it. So I'm going to subtract my fractions. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. 7 minus 2 is 5. the last thing we need to do is simplify our 2 and our 4 by dividing both by 2. And we end up with 5 and 1/2 as our final answer. Okay, let's look at our step or example 2. If we look at example 2, we have 7 and 1/6 minus 2 and 1/4. Now this one's going to be a little tricky. I'm going to save some space over here so I can rewrite it. So we have 7 and 1/6 minus 2 and 1/4. The first thing we notice is our denominators are not the same, so I need to make them the same. Our common denominator between 6 and 4 is going to be 12. So I'm going to make both of these have denominators of 12. To do that, I need to multiply my 6 and my 1 by 2. So I end up with 7 and 2/12. And I need to multiply my 4 and my 1 by 3. So I end up with 2 and 3/12. Okay, this is where the subtraction of mixed numbers gets a little bit tricky. I know I'm going to have to subtract my fractions, but I can't subtract 2 and 3. I'm going to end up with a negative number, and we don't know about those yet. So what I'm going to have to do is something called borrowing or regrouping. And the way we do that is we have to take that 7, which we know will become a 6, and then we're taking a whole. Right now we're working with 12ths, so I'm taking 1 whole 12ths. So that 6, or that 1 that I took from the 7 is 12. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the 2 that I have right now, and that's going to make my whole new numerator 14. I know that was a little tricky. We're taking 1 whole, but since we're working in 12ths, we're adding the 12 to the numerator, and we're getting 14. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and subtract. 14 minus 3 is 11. Keep that same denominator of 12. And then just subtract our new whole number, 6 minus 2, which is 4. We don't have to simplify here. Whew, good, because we had to do all that crazy borrowing. And so we're going to end up with a final answer of 4 over 11/12. Okay, if we didn't understand the borrowing, don't worry. We're going to see it one more time with this example 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite 12 minus 9 and 3/8. Notice this time that we don't have any denominator in our whole number here. So I need to make a fraction. Since I don't have a fraction part already with that whole number, I'm going to make it 0 over 8. We learned already that anytime we have 0 over any denominator, it's going to be 0. So I have 0/8 here. Since I can't subtract 3 from 0, what I'm going to have to do is borrow one more time. So I'm going to borrow from the 12. That's going to be 11. We're working with 8ths right now, so I'm borrowing 1 whole, which is 8/8. So what I'm going to do with that 1 whole, which we know is 8/8, is add it to the 0 here, so it's no longer going to be 0, it's going to be 8. I know, the borrowing's tricky. Rewind if you need to. 8 minus 3 is 5/8. 11 minus 9 is 2. Again, luckily for us, we don't have to simplify, so we can just keep it at 2 and 5/8. Now I'm going to have you try some. So these examples here are going to have addition, subtraction, converting, multiplication, division. So make sure you're paying close attention to the signs. Take a moment to write these problems down and pause the video and work them out on your own. All right, are these the answers that you got? Hopefully you got all of them correct and noticed my mistake right there. Also, I hope you guys didn't let this bother you. That's a 3.